things that I had three things this morning that I kind of wanted to talk about, and more along the lines of learning from you all, how these processes work. And we've got a couple of folks, citizens that are also on board that can give us a little feedback, I'm hoping, on these three topics. Are there any other topics anybody wanted to bring up besides these three? All right, not hearing any. Let's move on then. Topic number one was the special event application and requirements. And it was brought to my attention here a month and a half or so ago that either our applications had changed or there was some sort of an issue, an overall issue with that application. And I'm hoping you all can answer that question for me, if there are issues or if the application has changed over the last year or so.
I'm hoping that Brandy is going to unmute herself because I'm not familiar with the special event application form.
Oh, is Brandy on here? I didn't see her.
Good morning, everyone.
There she is.
Yeah, so the application did change in the start of 2022, and that was based on council action in 2021.
Hey, Christine, can you mute yourself? I think we're getting feedback from your side of things.
Yeah, so the application did change, like I said, based on action that was taken from City Council late last year. The changes that I can recall offhand are they removed the expedited process for special event applications. You used to be able to submit a special event application less than 30 days of your event. They removed that process based on the amount of time that it actually takes to process a special event application for larger events. Mainly due to safety procedures, protocols, change in staff, those type of things from the public works and law enforcement side of things, as well as the health district. The other thing that changed is they required approval from the council for any street closures, whether it's state highway, whether it's city roads, and whether what was the other thing? Whether, yeah, street closures. Oh yeah, whether it was grandfathered or not. The other change in the code was if you are to be using the parking lot next to the gazebo in the Port of Bremerton downtown behind Peninsula Feed, if you're using that parking lot for 2 consecutive days or more, you are required to have council approval. So if you use it for a one-day event, no big deal. You follow the regular process, no council approval needed. However, if you are, 2 things that have changed, if you are closing Harrison, again, that's a street closure, will need to go before council. If you're using it 2 or more consecutive days, you will need to bring it before council for their approval. So those are the things that I can recall that changed offhand. I know that there's some enforcing that has changed with the special event process, meaning that we're really looking at that resolution and what does that resolution mean? I believe that was 2007 or 8. There's an old standing resolution about grandfathered events and what does that mean? What does using staff resources and or expenses so that it does not conflict or coincide or gets the city in some trouble in using what's the term?
Gifting of public funds.
Yes, that's it right there. So that's still a ongoing process as we try to determine how we should enforce that moving forward, whether we're invoicing the agencies, whether is there overtime that's being triggered, is it for law enforcement only or for public works? I know that there's some cleanup that's still in progress for that piece. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll get it nailed down. I know this year, and then the other thing that was internal process It was added to the code, but another internal process that we're still trying to maneuver through is traffic control safety plans. What does that mean? It's unfortunately, it is for, it's determined on a case-by-case event. It is triggered based on how many attendance is expected to occur at a particular time. So if you were saying we're having 1,000 people throughout an 8-hour period come in and show, that's one aspect of it. But if you're having 2,000 to 3,000 or even 1,000 people come through at an hour at a time, based on safety provisions, it looks a little different. And so how are we going to manage the flow of those people and protecting them for unforeseen circumstances that could occur? And our law enforcement and public works department is trying to get a handle on what that looks like moving forward, especially for these larger events, especially when they want road closure, especially when there's pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic mixed. I know there was some concerns when we brought before the council to approve an event for a road closure. And then when staff looked at it, it just didn't sit right with them to have Harrison open. So unfortunately, when we shut down Harrison to have an event, we cannot have vehicle and pedestrian traffic mix. Outside agencies require that to be open to function as part of their day-to-day operations. So we had to make a decision as to whether to have that open or not. I think that there was some sort of compromise, if you will, for special events to keep happening in that aspect, meaning that all of the event vendors or activity needs to be stay on the right side of that Harrison behind Peninsula Feed and not cross over into Harrison, which is behind the Peninsula Bevco. So I think that was a great compromise to keep the event still happening. So I know that there was some changes with that this year and possibly last year. That's what I have. I'm opening up to questions. I'm not sure if you need any more specific details, but that's what I know. Like I said, there's still a couple of things that's in process and in limbo that staff is trying to figure out. And there's 2 incidents that this stems from. And one is we have a police chief that was that was involved in the Paulsbo shooting when there was a special event. I know that's a couple of years ago, old news. However, that his number one safety concern is to make sure that the people that are attending these events are safe, and that we can, should there be anything that happens in our city of that nature, that we are able to come in and get people to safety. The other one is not as detrimental, but luckily we didn't have anything going on. Luckily that bus was able to go in a different direction and hit, the incident occurred well before, I guess, and I don't know how to explain that, but so there was not sure if you're aware of this, but Kitsap Transit had a medical emergency, that driver lost control and took out 10 vehicles. Most of them were all parked in a parking lot, took out a fence, took down a pole, and very fortunate that we didn't have Bay Street shut down that day, or that they were just maneuvering and it wasn't a crowd of people. So that's what our law enforcement, that's what our public works department is looking for when they put on these events, is if something like that happens, how are we going to protect the people? How are we going to get down there? How are we going to get them out? So I'll stop harping on that, but that's what I have. I'm open to any questions.
No, thanks for that, Brandy. That was really detailed. So from what I gather, this is the first really change in the applications for 10 plus years. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the application format?
Yeah.
So again, this is something that maybe in the future we can look at in every couple of 2 or 3 or 4 years, rather than waiting as long as 10, because that over time like that, a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things are going to need to change. So
Yeah,
thanks for that.
Some of the other discussion at the council level on this is the city of Port Orchard is changing. And if you look at some of the the next few years and the additional development that's going on, it's just going to become more and more difficult to even consider the closure of Bay Street. There's just too much commerce that's happening down there. There's going to be more people living down there. And so it's just, part of growing. And so I think we'll need to, have our events be creative and look at other opportunities for venues as well. As we grow, it'll just be more challenging for all of the reasons we just heard.
And Brandy, how is it with the new time frame on the applications? Is that working well for the city?
I believe so. I think the struggle, at least for my perspective, is a lot of the events applications come in all at once, and so I have to process them, as they come in. So typically I'll get 6 or 7 applications all within a week time span, and then I'll get a couple other ones. And it does take probably a good 45 to 60 days to process it, get it through all of that outside agencies, internal comments. I believe that this year is the hardest part, because the law enforcement didn't have a safety plan for each specific event. There wasn't a traffic control plan designed for this event. So next year should be a lot smoother, that they're going to be able to take that plan that they created this year and pull it off the shelf for next year and say, okay, is there anything that's changed? We're looking at the special event application. What do we need to make? What changes do we need to make? They'll also look, he also provides after, I don't know the exact term of the report, or the name of the report, but he'll look at all of the pros and cons of the event and see if there's anything that we need to change for next year. So I think this year is just the roughest, a lot of new changes.
Yeah.
We've also had a lot of turnover and not turnover. Well, we've also had a lot of changes in staff lead. So a lot of these events have been managed by employees that have been here for 15, 20, 30 years. They're no longer here. They don't know. So when we receive a public event application, we have to look at it from, this is the first time that the city's ever seen it, because we have new employees that they haven't, Fathoms of Fun's been around for 60, 70 years, 50 years, whatever it is. Well, this employee just moved out of state. They don't know what this entails. They don't know that there's 30,000 people or whatever the number is. So that's what we're doing this year, looking at it from a perspective that this is the first time event. What does it look like? And next year it'll be a lot smoother. I'm pretty sure of that.
Great. So can I assume that when you get all these 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 applications at once, you're taking them as a first come, first served basis? Is that right?
For the most part, some of them will put them if I get a special event application in, I get 6 or 7 of them at the same time as I route them. It all depends on the speed that I get back from comments from staff or outside of agencies. It depends on when their event is. Sometimes they'll put an application and their event is in March. And then I have other ones that are not until September or May. And then I have some that put it in 90 days before the event. Well, I have some that are already in process. So I just put them through as I get comments, as I see them, as I'm able to work on them. Processing special event applications is not my only task within the city. So I have other deadlines that I have to meet, unfortunately. And I know it's a slow process. And
so it would behoove all the applicants to get those applications in sooner rather than wait till the 90 days. I guess that's my point there. Okay. Terrific.
Mark, I guess one thing though, I don't know if the city can put some timelines on these, but I've got an event in 20 days.
Yeah.
I've yet to receive approval from the city.
Yeah.
I'm advertising it, I'm marketing it, and I could get a no-go tomorrow. And if we are trying to put on events, we do need some type of notice as to whether or not it's a go or a no-go. And I know that for me, I did get in under the 90. I got, and I went to the council and the council approved it. I think I was like 85 days out because I was still negotiating with the farmers market unsuccessfully. But I don't think that it could just be turned over to the department heads and say, get this back to us when you get a chance. I think there's something that needs to go in there that says, if we don't get any comments back in 10 days, there's not an issue. Because I'm 20 days out from a Sunday event at the park, at the waterfront park. I'm not closing any roads. I'm not closing anything, I'm hoping to get 100, 125 people. Best case scenario, I still don't have approval. Logistically, that's a nightmare. So I don't know. That part there is hard. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Brandy, is there a current timeline on, how long this application and approval process takes place?
Internally, no. I believe, yeah, I'll have to look at Matt's. I know it's on my list to get you back a list of questions that police department had. So that's on my list to get to you this week or in the next couple of days. But yeah, we just don't have a timeline. It just depends, this time of the year. I mean, we got vacations, I know I'm just harping to the choir, but yeah. I mean,
and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but if I get questions back from the police chief this week, I respond to him next week.
Yeah.
I respond by the end of the week. That means I'm going to get my approval 2 weeks before my event. I'm spending dollars advertising and putting this whole thing together. And at any particular time, the city could pull the plug. I think that's unacceptable, guys.
Yeah, I would say, Matt, I think that's something maybe we can work on to try to get streamlined and get that communication back to our applicants a little bit sooner. That would be a nice touch and make it much less stressful for those applicants. I think that would be helpful to you. Is that correct, as a vendor?
Oh, as an event person, yes.
Yeah, and I think I was just going to add, from the timeline, 60 days to go through all of these, possibly all of these outside agencies. It's just kind of the fact of how long this takes. And so if you're planning an event 90 days out, knowing you've got 60 days to go through this process, I mean, we all need to work together to figure out how we can try to plan in as far in advance as we can to avoid these types of scenarios, right? I mean, if we got some new big event that's brand new and we're trying to run it 90 days from now, that's a big ask, depending on the size of the event, right? And so I would hope some of these larger events that they're being planned a year in advance, 6 months in advance, 9 months in advance.
And the one other thing that I'd like to say, and it's not about this process in particular, but Brandy, what's the parking lot number behind the Peninsula Feed?
I think it's lot 4.
Lot 4. So when somebody requests lot 4, they get everything from Harrison over to the park, whether or not they need it or not. And I almost think that, the 2 or 3 rows next to the Marina Park can be carved out, or should be carved out as parking lot 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever, because somebody wants to do something at the Marina Park and the rest of the parking lot is taken up with another event. It makes the Marina Park virtually inaccessible. And I know that when somebody wants to do something at the park, or at the city and at the park, they need to get both they need to get port approval as well as city approval to put things in there. And it really sucks, quite frankly, that the farmers market ties up the entire parking lot for all summer long, and they only use half of it. But yet they tie it up. So I don't know if it's somewhere that's a discussion that we need, that you guys need to have, or this committee have, because it is something. I know when the LTAC application went out and tweaks to the other event applications that have gone on, this committee has kind of addressed those things, getting input from event people. And so, the port controls those 11 parking spots along the waterfront there. And I don't know if when they request lot 4, if that includes that. But it's frustrating to try to put on an event when, in one fell swoop, the farmers market ties up the entire waterfront for the entire summer. So,
As far I can comment on the lot numbers, I'm not quite sure that we can change that. That's part of the code. I mean, that'll take obviously council action to do that piece. And I can say, just based on previous conversations that I've had with the police chief and the deputy chief, I don't know that they would allow a mix or a partial closure of that lot because of their concern of public and their concern of vehicle and pedestrian traffic. It just depends. I mean, I would say that they would probably allow it, but you're going to have to put Jersey barriers between where the vehicle has access or could impede into the tables or whatever you have over there. So that's why they request that whole lot is taken and closed, so that way there isn't any vehicle traffic mixed with the pedestrian. It's kind of a, it's not fair, but
Right.
I think that's what they're looking at it from that perspective. But it doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation again and revisit it and see if there's a better solution or a better way to have a win-win for
Yeah,
everyone.
I know in the past, when the farmer's market has been more cooperative, we've worked together and we've said, look, we'll have our stuff in there by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, just like the market does. All our vehicles will be gone by X time. That's just kind of the condition of the way things need to be. But the market folks, they all park down there too. And I just think it's a wasted space. So, and it's unusable by other organizations in the community when they do that. So,
All right, well, that's something I do think we can just talk about as a council or as staff, and perhaps evaluate this and give it a second look. Matt, thanks for your update and for your information on that. Anybody else have anything on this topic, special event application and requirements? All right, so let's move on to the second topic, which was city partnership for beautification projects. This one really had to do more with the time frame during COVID when we weren't able to do our community service programs, but I kind of wanted to know if we have agreements or how many agreements we have in place with service clubs within our community in helping to beautify and clean up our parks. Do we have anything in place, Brandy, that you're aware of? Or a
Not that
group?
I'm aware of. Yeah, I don't know that we have any formal agreements or routine contract or negotiation. It's just that every year and they look at what projects need to be done. And I know that this year we've had a lot of community outreach asking to do a lot of projects. In the past, it was pretty sparse. So we're on that wave where a lot of these nonprofits, churches, organizations, they want to come in and help with that. And I think we just do it case by case, but that's what I know of it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I know our Rotary Club has handled the Etta Turner Park for several years, barking that and keeping that up to date. But the Parks Department's come in and really helped us maintain that as well. But we also had one out, I think Windermere recently did a park beautification out at McCormick Woods, which was a great thing. That was my real question of topic on that, was where the city stands on that. And it sounds like the city's wide open and being willing to accept all the support we can.
so what's the process with that?
So,
I mean, if Kiwanis wants to come and do something, what do they do? Do they call the office and say, hey, we want to do a park, and then what?
So it's my understanding, usually it's somebody's reaching out to the city, whether it's the mayor or public works department, and they'll say, we have these, this number of people that want to come in and do a project, and the mayor typically gets together with public works and says, what items do you have that needs to be done that these people can do? And they coordinate it and they make it happen.
Okay.
All right, so that was a pretty light topic. Anybody have any questions or any feedback on that? Community service outreach? All right, perfect. Number 3, this is probably going to be the biggest meat of the order here is the LTAC distribution for for-profit businesses. This was brought up, a concern was brought up from a couple of nonprofits, and that's why I put this on the agenda. What do we know about this? How is it going to affect distribution or potential distribution of LTAC funds for our nonprofits moving forward? Brandy, do you have anything
Yep,
on this?
I
I'm
can,
gonna
start
lean
the-
on you.
No, sorry, I was trying to find the document. So around April, I attended a MRSC webinar training about lodging tax and just kind of getting a refresher as the season's coming up. And one of the questions that was asked was, is the application for applicants to apply limited to nonprofits? So based on what the city's past practice is and what we've been told is that, yeah, you have to be a nonprofit. You, as long as you are putting on an event that's designed to attract tourists, or you are promoting the city as a whole for a tourist reasons. And we've always been told it was nonprofit. Well, the question was, are they only for nonprofit? And the comment was no, the statute does not explicitly prohibit for profit entities from applying from lodging tax funds. The purpose of the fund is to promote tourism in jurisdictions by attracting individuals traveling over 50 miles away and encouraging overnight stays. So that was put out, like I said, by MSRC early this year. I did reach out to legal counsel to see what the interpretation of it, to make sure that, you know, that she agreed with them. And as far as I understand, it's not limited to nonprofit only. You still have to make sure that if a for-profit organization is putting on an event, that event has to be designed to attract tourists. Or if they're using it for marketing funds, that marketing has to be done for marketing Port Orchard for tourists. So I mean, I know that's pretty broad, but that's what the code allows and states. I know personally, when we open up the application process to the public, there typically isn't new applicants. It's the same ones that have been applying for the 14 years that I've been in the clerk's office. We get one occasional new one here or there. New organizations, I should say. We get different events that come up, but still put on by the same nonprofits. We advertise it in the paper. We put it on social media. I mean, granted, I'm not marketing it, you know, weekly or daily to get it out there to let them know that we're accepting the applications. But I send it out to all the previous event organizers that applied for lodging tax in the past. Anybody that puts in a special event application, I've sent them the application. I've talked to a couple organizations that have called and said, hey, can we do this? And ask them and encourage them to apply. They just don't. I'm not quite sure if it's just, I'm not quite sure, but so I'm not sure that there's going to be a huge shift. There might be. I'd be surprised if there is a ton of applications from for-profit organizations wanting to use these lodging tax dollars. But, you know, we're in a different time now. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, so I don't see a big change, but I guess not always in the know. I don't know. I don't know how to comment on that.
So typically, how many people apply? How many applicants do we have for these funds? I'm new to this, so I have no clue.
Anywhere from 8 to 12, maybe. And a couple organizations will, some will apply for operation for an event. So it's operations and marketing of a special event. That's one category. So they'll apply for some of those funds, and then the same organization will also apply for tourism and marketing dollars. So you'll see, that's why sometimes we'll have 12 applications, although it's really from 8 different organizations, because they'll put in 2 applications for 2 different pots of money, if you will.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thanks. Yeah, wait, Fred, you got your hand up. Welcome.
Hi, I've had technical problems. Brandy, I think in the past, committee members understood that nonprofits were defined as 501c3s and maybe 501c6s. I know there was talk, for example, that what was the entity that used to be the Dragonfly Theater used to put on a film festival. And one of the ideas was, they could get some promotional dollars to make it a bigger event. And their problem, of course, was that they had a very small organization. I don't believe they were a nonprofit. So maybe theoretically, something like that would have been able or would be eligible for lodging tax dollars if they had a program that they wanted to promote.
Correct, that's my understanding. And the current owner of that particular establishment did apply for special event or apply for lodging tax when we opened it up the second round, and the committee as well as the council authorized that award grant. So yes, it's my understanding they can apply.
So MSRC appears to be contradicting themselves in this, because the MRSC, I can never remember what it is. The MRSC in one of their publications says, and I quote, that the entities that may apply for lodging tax funding are convention and visitor bureaus, destination marketing organizations, nonprofits, including Main Street organizations, lodging associations, chambers of commerces, and municipalities. RCW is clear as to who can. It's my opinion, just because something is not excluded does not automatically make them eligible for, because the RCW does list the people that are eligible. In the past, we worked with Dragonfly, and the way we basically did it was like, yeah, Dragonfly, you put your event on, we can market it. We can do that part of it. The same thing happens in Ellensburg with the rodeo. The Visitor Bureau in Ellensburg uses LTAC funds to promote the rodeo, which is a for-profit organization. The funds are awarded to a nonprofit to be used, to promote in general. I mean, we've promoted golf courses that are not nonprofits. We've promoted the wine, Olala Winery, which is not a nonprofit. We promoted the people that, events that bring people into town. But I think that it's pretty clear, in my opinion, and as far as I know, I'm just about as knowledgeable on this as some consultant that MSRC decides to pay some money to write an opinion paper on. I think it's clear that the funds should not be used for profit. And my big thing is that obviously the city of Port Orchard is not swimming in LTAC funds. And so all it would really take would be an understanding from the city council that our priority is going to go towards the funding of events and activities that are put on by nonprofits. I've got papers and I've got the research. I've got a copy of the RCWs and questions, and I will be happy to email them. And along with the MRSC's papers, all of their documentation on the subject. I'll send it to anybody that wants to review it specifically. But
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
So here's what's going to complicate this is, so now that we've received this updated information, plus we've got legal counsel telling us that all organizations should be treated equally in this process, right? That's kind of where we have to go. So I'm wondering if you believe you are right, is there a way you could maybe coordinate with, kind of the statewide chamber efforts to see if they have a legal opinion or that's something that differs? Because right now, if that's the opinion that's given to us, that's where we're going to have to go, right? We can't come in and say we're going to give priority to nonprofits, because right now we're
the thing is that, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I think it should be up to the city, because what's going to happen when the auditor comes through, MSRC is not a government agency. MSRC is just
right, which is why our legal counsel, our city's legal counsel, we had to take a look at it, and she issued us an opinion. So that's what we have to go with. We have to trust our legal counsel.
Well,
Not
but on
just
the
an
other hand, I
opinion.
think you guys can come back and say it's the council's philosophy and desire to ensure that the nonprofits are funded as a priority.
I absolutely disagree with that. Based on this legal opinion, that would be discrimination, and we have to treat all applicants the same. We can't give
So
priority to a
I
group or
think,
another.
if, well, all I can say, Sean, is if the city tries to do that, I think that there will be other issues that
Yeah,
come up.
and we
on
don't
this
know that
subject.
anyone's going to
Yeah.
apply. We don't know that
Right,
anyone's going
right.
to apply.
Yeah,
But
I
I
don't,
think that maybe we need to go back to the attorney and ask her why she thinks that, because it clearly states.
I'll ask her. I'll be happy. As chair of the lodging tax, I will have that
So what,
conversation again.
Sean, do you have my email address? Matt
Sure.
at Port Orchard?
Yeah.
I'll shoot this stuff over to you also.
Okay.
And anybody else that wants to see it, because the RCW says who can. Who can.
Well, but if you read the first part of that RCW, it almost like the first sentence of it or two sentences of it almost includes everybody, because it said and, right? So anyway, let's not get into
Yeah.
a legal debate today because
Hey, Matt,
we're not
I also think it would
lawyers.
be really helpful if we had an example of what we think is a for-profit that might be applying. I mean, I can't think of any.
Well, for example, I mean, an example that was given to me the other day is Seafair wants to run Seafair wants to apply to the city of Seattle for LTAC dollars. So can Seafair apply? Can the hydroplane races apply to the city of Seattle for LTAC dollars?
I have a very specific example in Pierce County that's happening. And so again, we've all been involved with this for many years, and we know how this can just lead to debates and leads to differings of opinions. And, if you talk to hoteliers, right, they're the business that is charging this of their customers that go back in. And so from a hotelier's viewpoint, they want to see tourism activities that are putting heads in beds. They want their hotels full. They're the ones, and they're the ones charging their guests. And over the years, and we've all seen it, we know that there's been funding to different groups and organizations that have not put in any heads in any beds, right? And so that creates debate. And so there's an example in Pierce County where a group of hotels, no, I'm sorry, one hotel has come with their own package. They've been successful in getting funding. It's a for-profit hotel, and they are advertising to come and do these certain activities. And if you do, then basically the hotel room is deeply discounted by using these funds. So every single person that, when they fill out their year-end application, every single person that they've brought in is actually staying in the hotel, right? So that's an example of a for-profit hotel, using these dollars to promote the area and to put heads in their beds. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
That is the carve out that's available for LTAC, is an association of the hotels. And I don't know what that's a 3-letter acronym for it, whatever it is, to form their own little marketing group and use their LTAC dollars for that. And I think that's an example of what you've just given, is that specific carve out.
Are you talking about was it a tourism promotion area? Is it TPA?
Yeah, TPA. Yeah,
So
I think that's it.
TPA, so here's a really slippery slope, is if the hoteliers wanted to get together, they can form their own TPA and the city wouldn't get any of these dollars, and they would
Right.
be in full control of how this gets put out, right? There's two ways to do it. The way
Right.
we're doing
Mhm.
it, or if the hotelier said enough's enough, we're going to form our own
Yeah.
TPA, all the dollars come to us, we make all the decisions. That could happen.
And that may, I mean, and I don't know if that happened with that particular hotel.
It didn't. No, it did
Okay.
not.
Yeah.
It's all or none. It wouldn't be both. It's all or none. It's just, you either set it up as a TPA managed by the hotels, or you set it up this way that's administered by a lodging tax committee.
Hey, good discussion. The one thing I will say is I don't necessarily think that council should take a position of we're supporting these or we're not supporting those. In my very short-term knowledge of the LTAC funds and what it's designed for is to bring people in from outside the area to our city. And I would not be opposed to having a for-profit business come in with a great plan and supporting them for bringing folks into our city. But that's water that hasn't even reached the bridge yet because we haven't seen any of those. So it's tough to talk about something that hasn't happened yet and how we would react to something that hasn't even happened as of yet. But I do think, maybe we should have our counsel, our attorney, take a look at this again, just for the sake of doing so and making sure that she's looked at all sides of that.
And I'm happy to have that conversation and report back to the next meeting. Because I do want to get it right. Just whatever, I just want to make sure we're doing it right. We owe that to our citizens.
Correct. Anybody else have anything for on this topic, the LTAC funds?
I just would like to point out that I think the bridge blast was put on by a private company in Bremerton, and that they were the organizers for it. And that seems to me like a perfect situation, as you're describing, that would LTAC funds would benefit the community. They are a for-profit entity that did the organizational part of it. And I'm telling you that they brought in a lot of people, boaters and everything, that it was a very well-attended event for the benefit of the city of Bremerton. So that's, if you're looking for an example of something for profit, that's a pretty good example.
Gary, do you know, did they apply for LTAC funds from Bremerton?
I think they did. They made a presentation to the Port of Bremerton because the port supported it to a degree also. And I think it was mentioned that they applied for LTAC funds too. So it's worth checking in on that.
Yes. So Sean, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, if you could double up on that and get back with us, that'd be awesome. Any other further discussion on this topic, LTAC distribution for profit businesses? All right, how about for the good of the order? Nothing for the good of the order? All right,
Mark?
then.
Oh,
Yes.
I just have a question. Do we have any idea how many Airbnbs there are in the city? Or Sean, maybe have you heard how many entities are contributing to lodging tax?
I do not believe Airbnbs contribute to lodging tax. Brandy, do you know the answer to that?
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah,
They're not part of.
They don't.
Mm-mm.
No, it's just people leasing out their homes. It's not treated like a hotel.
So we don't believe Airbnb is collecting lodging tax on our behalf.
Nope.
Okay. Because I had heard they were, but I don't know if they are in our city. So
I don't believe so.
So we have a grand total of what, 2 hotels that are contributing?
3 hoteliers and 1 bed and breakfast. That's from my understanding.
There is a B&B.
she doesn't use Airbnb though. She uses her own website. And that's Mrs. House Bed and Breakfast. There used to be the Cedar Cove Inn, which is now private. That's almost, I just think, I don't have feelings either way, but I just wondered because some people were under the impression that Airbnbs were collecting that. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It would be a nice source of revenue maybe, because there do seem to be a lot of Airbnbs, at least in the downtown area, that I've heard of.
I'll dig further into that as well, Fred. It's a good point. We should know, for certainty.
Yeah, more money.
All right, great. Anything else for the good of the order, you guys? All right, so let's adjourn this meeting and thank everybody for coming. Our next meeting has yet to be determined, but I imagine it's probably next month at this time frame. So we'll see everybody then. And Gary, thanks for coming, and happy belated birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
See you, everybody.